My name is Zoe, and I'm 29 years old. 3 months ago, I walked into my family's Thanksgiving dinner wearing thrift store clothes and driving a beat-up Honda. They literally asked if I was homeless. Last week, I pulled up to Christmas dinner in a chauffeur-driven limousine wearing designer clothes. The looks on their faces were priceless. But this isn't a story about revenge, it's about something much more complicated. If you've ever been underestimated by the people who should know you best, let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about proving yourself when nobody believes in you. For the past 7 years, I've been working as a software developer at a startup in Austin, Texas. Not a glamorous job by Silicon Valley standards, but steady work that paid the bills. I lived modestly in a small one-bedroom apartment, drove that 12-year-old Honda Civic, and dressed in whatever was comfortable and cheap. My family never really understood what I did for work. Something with computers was how my mother would describe it to her friends, usually with a dismissive wave of her hand. My younger sister, Brianna, was the golden child. At 26, she had married Kevin, a corporate lawyer from a wealthy family. They lived in a McMansion in the suburbs, drove matching luxury SUVs, and posted constantly on social media about their perfect life. Family gatherings always centered around Brianna's latest accomplishments, her promotion to marketing director, their vacation to the Maldives, the renovation of their home theater. I attended these gatherings dutifully, sitting quietly at the dinner table while everyone fawned over Brianna. "When are you going to meet someone like Kevin?" My mother would ask, not even trying to hide her disappointment. "When are you going to get a real career?" My father would add, as if my degree in computer science and 7 years of professional experience didn't count. My older brother, Marcus, wasn't much better. At 33, he ran a moderately successful car dealership that our father had helped him purchase. He loved to give unsolicited financial advice, despite knowing nothing about my actual financial situation. "You should really think about investing in property," he'd lecture me over Thanksgiving turkey. "Renting is just throwing money away." What none of them knew was that I had been working 70-hour weeks for the past 3 years, not just as a regular developer, but as one of the founding engineers of our startup. When I joined the company, it was just 4 people working out of a garage. I accepted equity instead of a higher salary, believing in our product. A revolutionary data analytics platform for healthcare systems. I couldn't tell them about the equity. Not because I was being secretive, but because they'd already made up their minds about me. I was the struggling tech worker, the spinster sister, the one who couldn't figure out her life. Anything I said would be dismissed as delusions or excuses. This past Thanksgiving was particularly brutal. I had been working around the clock because our company was in final negotiations for acquisition by a major tech corporation. I barely had time to shower, let alone shop for new clothes. I showed up to my parents' house in jeans, an old sweater, and my worn sneakers. My cousin Tiffany answered the door, her eyes widening as she took in my appearance. "Oh wow, Zoe. Are you okay?" she asked, her voice dripping with pity. Before I could answer, my mother appeared behind her. "Zoe, what are you wearing? I told you this was a nice dinner." She glanced back at the living room where extended family had gathered, then lowered her voice. "At least tell me you brought something to change into." I hadn't. I'd barely remembered to bring the sweet potato casserole I'd picked up from the grocery store. The dinner itself was excruciating. I sat at the far end of the table, next to my uncle's new girlfriend who kept asking me uncomfortable questions about my situation. Meanwhile, Brianna held court at the other end, showing off her new Cartier bracelet that Kevin had given her, just because. "At least someone in this family knows how to treat their woman right," my father said, raising his wine glass toward Kevin. The implication was clear. I couldn't even find a man, let alone one who could afford expensive jewelry. Halfway through dinner, Marcus pulled me aside in the kitchen. "Listen, Zoe," he said, his tone patronizing. "Dad and I have been talking. If you're struggling financially, we can help you out. Maybe get you an entry-level position at the dealership. Receptionist work, nothing too complicated." I stared at him, anger bubbling up. "I'm not struggling, Marcus. I have a good job." He glanced at my clothes, my worn sneakers. "Sure, okay. But if things get tough, just know the offer stands. Family helps family. After everyone had left, my mother cornered me in the foyer. Zoe, honey, are you sleeping rough? Because if you need a place to stay. Mom, I have an apartment. I'm fine. She looked skeptical. It's just, you look so tired. And those clothes. When was the last time you bought yourself something nice? I wanted to scream that I'd been working 80-hour weeks because our company was about to be acquired for $300 million. That my equity stake would make me wealthy beyond anything our family had ever seen. But I held my tongue. Let them think what they wanted. The truth would reveal itself soon enough. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, the acquisition closed. I sat in my apartment, staring at the wire transfer notification on my phone. After taxes and various fees, my share came to $18 million. $18 million. I read the number over and over, unable to process it. I had expected a life-changing amount, but this exceeded my wildest projections. The acquiring company had valued our technology higher than anyone anticipated. For 3 days, I told no one. I went to work as usual, came home to my modest apartment, ate ramen for dinner. I needed time to think, to plan, to figure out what this meant for my life. My first move was calling a wealth management firm. They assigned me a team of advisors who helped me understand tax implications, investment strategies, and asset protection. We set up trusts, diversified investments, and created a long-term financial plan. My second move was more indulgent. I hired a personal shopper and spent a day at high-end boutiques, replacing my threadbare wardrobe with quality pieces. Not flashy designer labels, I've never been about showing off, but well-made clothes that fit properly and made me feel confident. I leased a luxury apartment in downtown Austin with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city skyline. I bought a Tesla, practical and environmentally friendly. And yes, I hired a driver for special occasions because why not? But I still didn't tell my family. Christmas was coming up, and I decided to let them draw their own conclusions. The week before Christmas, my mother called. You're still coming to dinner, right? And please, Zoe, make an effort with your appearance. Brianna is bringing her in-laws. I'll be there, Mom. Don't worry about how I look. That's exactly what I'm worried about, she muttered before hanging up. Brianna texted me the next day, Mom told me to check on you. Are you really okay? Like, financially? Kevin and I could help if you need it. The condescension in her message was infuriating, but I kept my response simple. I'm great. See you Christmas. Marcus called the day before Christmas. Hey, so Dad wanted me to reach out. He's concerned about you. We're all concerned. If you've lost your job or something, it's nothing to be ashamed of. These things happen. I haven't lost my job, Marcus. Okay, but your situation seems unstable. Just saying, the dealership offer still stands. I thanked him and ended the call, a plan forming in my mind. If they wanted a show, I'd give them one. Christmas morning, I woke up in my new apartment and took my time getting ready. I'd hired a professional stylist who had selected an elegant emerald green dress, subtle but expensive. My hair and makeup were done professionally. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. Not because I'd changed fundamentally, but because I finally looked like I felt inside, confident, successful, accomplished. At 3 p.m., my driver arrived. I'd hired a limousine service for the day, complete with a professional chauffeur named James who treated the whole thing with perfect seriousness. Ready, Ms. Martinez? He asked, opening the door. Ready, I confirmed, settling into the leather seats. My parents lived 40 minutes away in their suburban neighborhood. As we pulled onto their street, I saw cars already lining the driveway, Marcus's truck, Brianna's Lexus SUV, various relatives' vehicles. The limousine glided to a stop directly in front of the house. Through the tinted windows, I could see curtains twitching, faces appearing at windows. James opened my door, offering his hand to help me out. I stepped onto the sidewalk in my designer heels, adjusting my coat. The front door burst open. My mother stood there, mouth literally hanging open. Behind her, I could see faces crowding into the foyer, everyone trying to get a look. Zoe, my mother managed. What? How? "Merry Christmas, Mom," I said, walking up the path with my gift bags. The scene inside was chaos. Everyone was talking at once, questions flying from every direction. "Whose car is that? Where did you get that dress? What's going on?" Brianna appeared, her perfect makeup unable to hide her shock. "Zoe, what the hell? Did you rent that limo?" "No," I said calmly, setting down my gifts. "I hired a car service for the day. Seemed easier than driving myself." Marcus pushed through the crowd. "This is some kind of joke, right? Some elaborate prank." My father was uncharacteristically quiet, studying me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Can we sit down?" I asked. "I have some things to share." The family gathered in the living room, everyone perched on edges of seats, radiating confusion and curiosity. Brianna sat next to Kevin, who looked vaguely amused by the whole situation. Marcus stood by the fireplace, arms crossed defensively. So my mother began, her voice shrill with anxiety. "Are you going to explain what's happening? Did you win the lottery? Are you in some kind of trouble?" I took a deep breath. 3 months ago, the startup I've been working for was acquired by a major tech company. As one of the founding engineers, I held significant equity in the company. When the acquisition closed 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, my shares were worth about $18 million after taxes. The silence was absolute. No one moved. No one breathed. Finally, Brianna laughed a high, nervous sound. "You're joking." "I'm not joking. I can show you the wire transfer if you'd like, though that seems tacky." 18 million, Marcus repeated slowly. "Dollars." "Yes." My father leaned forward. "And you've been living in that tiny apartment, driving that old car, dressing like..." He stopped himself. "Like a homeless person?" I supplied, referencing Marcus's comment from Thanksgiving that I'd overheard. "Yes, because I was focused on work, not appearances. Because I was building something meaningful instead of worrying about what everyone thought of me." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "Why didn't you tell us? We've been so worried. We thought you were struggling." "You assumed I was struggling," I corrected gently. "You never asked about my actual situation. You just saw the surface, my clothes, my car, and decided I was failing." "That's not fair," Brianna protested. "You have to admit, you looked like you were barely getting by. And whose fault is that assumption? I have a computer science degree from UT Austin. I've been employed continuously since graduation. But because I wasn't flashing expensive things like you and Kevin, you decided I was a mess." The room fell silent again. I could see the wheels turning in everyone's heads, reconsidering every interaction, every condescending comment, every pitying look. "The receptionist job offer," Marcus said quietly, his face reddening. "God, Zoe, I'm sorry. I was such an ass." "Yes, you were," I agreed. "But you were just following the family pattern. Everyone here has treated me like the failure, the one who couldn't figure out life." "We never meant," my mother started. "But you did. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every family gathering. While you celebrated Brianna's promotion or Marcus's dealership expansion, you barely acknowledged my career. Something with computers isn't exactly a ringing endorsement." Kevin, surprisingly, spoke up. "For what it's worth, I always thought your work sounded impressive." "Data analytics for healthcare? That's important stuff." I gave him a small smile. "Thanks, Kevin." Brianna looked at him in surprise, then back at me. "I think I owe you an apology." "Several apologies, actually. I've been not a great sister." "No, you haven't," I agreed. "But neither have I been very communicative. I kept my success quiet partly because you all had already decided who I was, and partly because I was afraid of how you'd react." "Afraid of us?" my father asked, looking genuinely confused. "Dad, can you honestly say you would have believed me if I'd told you at Thanksgiving that I was about to become a multimillionaire? Or would you have assumed I was delusional or making excuses for my failures?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. After a long moment, he shook his head. "You're right. I wouldn't have believed you." "I'm sorry, Zoe. I should have had more faith in you." The rest of Christmas passed in a strange, subdued atmosphere. People were polite, almost formal, as if they didn't know how to relate to this new version of me. Or rather, this revealed version of me. After dinner, I found my mother alone in the kitchen. She was wrapping leftovers, her movements mechanical. "Mom," I said gently. She turned, her eyes red-rimmed. "I failed you, didn't I?" I considered lying, offering easy comfort. But we were past that point. "You made assumptions. You compared me to Brianna and Marcus in ways that weren't fair to any of us. Your father and I, we just wanted you to be happy. Settled. We worried about you." "I am happy, Mom. I've been happy. I love my work. I love what I've built. But you never asked me about any of that. You just saw what you wanted to see." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "What now? Are you going to stop coming to family dinners?" "I wouldn't blame you. I'm not going anywhere," I assured her. "But things need to change. I need to be seen and heard as I actually am, not as whatever role you've assigned me." Before I left, Brianna pulled me aside. "Can we have coffee sometime? Just the two of us? I want to hear about your company, about what you actually do." "I'd like that," I said, and meant it. Marcus shook my hand awkwardly at the door. "The receptionist thing. God, I'm never going to live that down, am I?" "Probably not," I admitted with a smile. "But we can laugh about it eventually." As James drove me home, I reflected on the strange day. The reveal hadn't brought the satisfaction I'd anticipated. Instead, I felt a mixture of relief and melancholy. Relief that the truth was finally out. Melancholy because I realized what I'd really wanted all along wasn't to prove them wrong, it was simply to be seen. In the weeks that followed, relationships gradually shifted. My parents made genuine efforts to understand my work, asking real questions instead of dismissive ones. Brianna and I started having weekly coffee dates where we talked about more than just surface-level updates. Marcus stopped giving unsolicited advice and started asking for mine. But the most important change was internal. I stopped minimizing my accomplishments, stopped dressing down, stopped hiding my success. Not to show off, but because I deserved to be comfortable in my own life. The money gave me financial freedom, yes. But the real gift was the freedom to stop performing the role my family had written for me. To step into my own story, fully visible at last. 6 months later, I used some of my wealth to start a foundation supporting women in STEM fields, particularly those from families who don't understand their career paths. I know what it's like to succeed in silence, to have your achievements dismissed because they don't fit someone else's narrative. The limousine moment makes a good story, and yes, it was dramatic. But the real transformation happened in the quieter moments afterward, the difficult conversations, the gradual rebuilding of trust, the slow work of teaching people to see me as I actually am. Have you ever been underestimated by your family? Have you ever had to prove yourself to the people who should have believed in you from the start? Share your story in the comments. And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with anyone who needs a reminder that your worth isn't determined by others' perceptions. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, success doesn't always look the way people expect it to. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply be yourself, regardless of whether anyone understands.